Sallyface. If you've played the original indie video game by Portable Moose, just hearing that name probably brings back memories of prosthetic masks, dark paranormal mysteries, guitar riffs, and a lot of emotional damage. It was an absolute masterpiece of atmospheric storytelling. When Maestro Media first brought Steve Gabrey's cult classic psychological horror video game to the tabletop with Sallyface Strange Nightmares, it felt like a perfect, eerie match. Now, they are pulling us right back into the unsettling halls of the Addison Apartments with their latest crowdfunding campaign, Sallyface Strange Nightmares Corruption. Promising to double the narrative length with 4 brand new stories designed to bridge the lore gap between the first and the second video games. This expansion isn't just a minor add-on, it's trying to completely overhaul the stakes. The Kickstarter page itself is a masterclass in engaging a fandom, complete with an interactive, real-life hotline phone number that drops creepy lore teasers and some genuinely massive Super Gear Boy themed all-in storage boxes. But as we look closer at the page, we have to ask, do the pricing tiers, the stretch goals, and the new mutation corruption mechanics justify diving back into Knockfell? Or is the creeping dread just clever marketing? We'll break down the value of the crowdfunding campaign in just a moment. But wait, before we dig into the secrets of the expansion, we need to take a step back. If you haven't played the original tabletop game yet, all of this corruption talk might sound like a bit total gibberish. So let's talk about the base game first and see what made this weird world worth returning to in the first place. Before we talk about how it feels, let's talk about how it works. Sallyface Strange Nightmares is a cooperative, narrative-driven adventure for 1 to 5 players. You'll be playing as Sal, Larry, Todd, Ashley, and Travis, working together to solve mysteries and stop the corruption festering inside Addison Apartments. The game is divided into episodic chapters, mimicking the structure of the video game. Each chapter gives you specific setup instructions, unique rules, as well as unique components. The core gameplay revolves around a few mechanics: dice placement and the Gear Boy. Every turn, you'll roll a pool of custom dice. You'll use these dice to move around the apartments, investigate mysteries, and to use your character's unique abilities. The Gear Boy. Yes, the Gear Boy is here. It's your main character dashboard that keeps track of your health as well as your sanity, but also a turn breakdown as well as your character's unique ability. You'll have different items as well as a unique curse. So let's talk about some of the highlights, because there's a lot to love here. First and foremost, the art and atmosphere. Maestro Media did a phenomenal job collaborating with Portable Moose. The art style is perfectly preserved. It looks grungy, and it looks distinctively Sallyface. The item cards, the character standees, the room layouts, it instantly triggers that nostalgia. If you're a fan of the franchise, just looking at the table is going to put a smile on your face. Second, the character Symmetry feels great. Sal is absolutely a beast at investigating. Larry is your muscle, Todd utilizes tech, and Ash is versatile. It genuinely feels like the gang working together. You have to talk to your teammates and optimize who goes where, because the game does not pull punches. Lastly, the episodic storytelling. I love that it doesn't feel like a generic ghost hunting game with a skin slapped on it. The chapters generally feel like mini puzzles where you're uncovering a dark story, just like the point-and-click roots of the original game. Now, no game is perfect, and there are a couple things you should know before buying in. First up is the randomness factor. Because this is a dice-driven game, you are ultimately at the mercy of your rolls. The game gives you ways to mitigate bad rolls, like using certain item cards or character abilities. But if the dice gods absolutely hate you at a crucial turn, it can feel a bit punishing. If you prefer pure, deterministic strategy where everything is under your control, the heavy reliance on dice might frustrate you. The other point to consider is replayability. Because the game is so narrative heavy and episodic, once you've solved a specific chapter and know the twists, playing it a second time loses a bit of that initial mystery. The game does a good job, however, to counter this by offering different difficulties as well as random mystery cards to spice up the apartment exploration. But it's definitely a game that peaks on your first playthrough of the campaign. So what's the final verdict? Who is Sally Faye's Strange Nightmares actually for? If you're a diehard fan of Sally Faye's universe, this is an absolute no-brainer. It's an incredibly faithful, loving adaptation that respects the source material. It feels less like a corporate cash-in and more like an extension of the world Steve Gabriel created. If you like games like Pandemic or narrative adventure games, then this is definitely a game that you should pick up. If you've never played the video game, it's still a highly competent, spooky cooperative puzzle adventure. It sits perfectly in that medium lightweight category. It's easy to teach your friends who aren't hardcore board gamers, but it offers enough tension and tactical choices to keep even seasoned players engaged. And it does also play surprisingly well as a solo experience, which fits the lonely, eerie vibe of the original game perfectly. Alright, so now that we're all caught up on how the base game plays, let's head back to the Kickstarter page and look at what this corruption expansion is actually bringing to the table. And more importantly, whether it's worth your hard-earned cash. First off, let's talk about content. The big selling point here is narrative. If you feel like the base game left you wanting more story, Corruption is answering that call with 4 brand new chapters. Maestro Media is heavily emphasizing that these story acts as an official narrative bridge between the first Sally Face video game and the upcoming Sally Face 2. For lore hounds, that alone might make this a mandatory look. Mechanically, they are introducing the corruption system. It's a new, mutating mechanic where the floors of the Addison Apartments literally decay and change as you play, ramping up the difficulty and adding a ticking clock element to your investigation. It sounds like a fantastic way to fix one of the critiques of the first game, giving it a bit more replayability and a much sharper bite. And honestly, you have to give props to their marketing team. One of the coolest parts of scrolling through this campaign was the interactive hotline. They actually set up a real-life phone number that backers could call to listen to creepy, in-universe audio logs and unlock daily stretch goals. If that's extra layer of love for the IP that makes Kickstarter feel like an event rather than just a pre-order page. But let's talk about numbers, because that's why we're here. Value breakdown time. If you look at the pledge tiers, Maestro Media has split this campaign down to a pretty distinct line. It's either highly tailored for returning fans or an absolute wallet crusher for newcomers. If you already own the base game, the entry point for just the corruption expansion is actually pretty reasonable for a modern table Kickstarter. You're getting the new stories, the new mechanics, and all of the unlocked stretch goals without feeling like you're being forced to rebuy stuff you already own. But if you're a completionist, or if you are brand new and wanting everything, that's where the sticker shock might hit you. They are pushing a massive all-in tier featuring a giant custom-molded Gearboy storage box to hold the base game and all of the expansion. It looks incredible, but when you factor in shipping for a box that size, the price climbs pretty fast. So what's the verdict on the page itself? If you're a die-hard Sally Face fan who already loves the board game, the expansion tier is a great value proposition to expand your world. But if you're on the fence, the high price of the deluxe all-in extras might mean you're better off waiting for retail. But I want to hear from you. Have you had a chance to back or play this yet? Who's your go-to character in the game? Let me know in the comments below. Alright everybody, this has been Will from Mature Minded Gamers, bringing you Sally Face Strange Nightmares from Maestro Media. Be sure to check out all of our other great content on maturemindedgamers.com. We do video games, board games, and so much more. So until next time, everyone stay safe. Take care.